Behemoth, its significance. In the book of Job, God demonstrates the greatness of his creation through the sea monster leviathan and the land monster Behemoth. The leviathan seems to be basically evil in nature and is described in Isaiah chapter 27, verse 1 as a crooked serpent which the Lord will eventually slay. The behemoth, on the other hand, is not portrayed as being evil. It is a mighty creature which can only be controlled by God himself. However, the creature seems to be gentle, eats grass, and lives in harmony with nature. It is described as the chief of the ways of God. Job chapter 40 verse 19. He, that is Behemoth, is the chief of the ways of God. He that made him can make his sword to approach unto him. Which is basically saying only God is able to approach this creature with his sword. This creature seems to have been alive at the same time as Job, as God tells Job to behold it. Also God says to Job that he made the behemoth with him. Job chapter 40 verse 15. Behold now Behemoth, which I made with thee. He eateth grass as an ox. It seems that this mighty beast was connected with Job in some way. It certainly is not shown as being hostile in any way. Prophetically, it represents the power and majesty of God and his creation. And just reading that again, it's quite a claim that God says it's the chief of the ways of God. Its tail is described as being like a mighty cedar. It spends its time in reeds and fens and in the river Jordan, probably to help support its massive body weight. The world was different back then. I think it was a time not long after the flood. Snow and ice are mentioned a lot in Job, even though the location is in the Middle East. Many of the animals that were around then are no longer with us. The behemoth, with its massive tail, seems to have been something like a diplodocus, a creature that is now referred to as a dinosaur, but what I would call a dragon. Sadly, this majestic animal is no longer around. It belonged to a world that has long since passed by, a world that Job would have known. Ever since the fall of Adam and Eve, the world has been deteriorating. Little is left to remind us of the beauty of God's original creation. Job, when he beheld the behemoth, would have seen it was untroubled by anything. Job chapter 40 verse 23. Behold, he drinketh up a river, and hasteth not. He trusteth that he can draw up Jordan into his mouth. The raging waters of the river would not have bothered the behemoth at all. Job would have learned what he needed to learn, that he should not be troubled by the storms around us, but trust in God. The Bible encourages us to find God by looking at the natural world. Sadly for most of us, there is little natural world left to see. There are ancient traditions about the return of the behemoth. In the Syriac Apocalypse of Baruch, an ancient Jewish text, Behemoth is described as coming from the land and Leviathan from the sea at the end of the world. They are said to be food for the chosen people in the Messianic era. However, I can't see any evidence of Behemoth returning in the Bible. Also, there are some who have identified the Behemoth with the beast in the book of Revelation, but I can't see any reason to believe this. If Behemoth does return, then it would be during the millennial reign of Christ, when the curse brought on the world by Adam and Eve is partially reversed, and God's creation is restored. There is nothing in the Bible about Behemoth being killed, as is the case with Leviathan. Both creatures, it seems, can only be approached by God. In fact, only God is able to kill these creatures. It may be that Behemoth is hibernating, awaiting the return of the Lord. I hope so. So thank you for listening. If you found this video interesting, you can find more information at prophecy-workshop.com.